Good evening. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the ASCA Board of Directors. Today is July 16th, 2026. On the call tonight is Executive Secretary Calajaco, First Vice President Chuck Klein, Second Vice President Ann McCabe, Treasurer Diana Williams, Secretary Tanya Johnson, Directors Sue Kelly, Jerry Scheit, Jillian Ward, and myself, Jody McClellan. We also have the directors-elect with us, Tom Collins, Dan Sanderson, and Steve Shope. To get started tonight, we're going to start with an update on the affiliate Zoom meetings. Just kind of give us an update how everything's going. And Chuck, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Thanks. I've hosted three affiliate meetings now, one for agility, one for scent detection, and the last one for dock jumping. For agility, we had it was probably close to 50 participants, which was pretty good. And we had a lot of good discussion. I think the main discussion that we had was around uh, trying to get more people to do ASCA agility. We're losing people to some of the other organizations, and uh, there was a lot of discussion on some things that we could do to get some of those people back and to try to draw in new people. So a lot of good discussion. In fact, I think the meeting went for it was almost 2 hours, I think. Then for scent detection, I think we had a little over 20 people or participants on that one. And a lot of it, there was a lot of questions on um, how to host trials and the need for more judges. And like I said, we had some good discussion there. And then finally, the last one was dock jumping, and I think we had around 15 participants for that one. And there was some discussion on how we could continue to grow the program. There's a lot of interest in ASCA dock jumping, and there are some ideas on how to grow it, and we'll work towards those. So that pretty much covers my three affiliate meetings that I had. Any questions from anybody?
Thanks, Chuck. Next up is, I think the only other one we've had liaison is Tanya.
Good evening, everybody. This is Tanya Johnson. I am the secretary for the Australian Shepherd Club of America. I'm also the liaison for the stock and the confirmation committee. We have also held for both of these committees the affiliate Zoom meetings. Both were very well attended. I don't think I got a final number for the confirmation, but I know at the beginning of the meeting we had 20 some logged in for sure. And then for the stock, we had about 40 in attendance. And then both were very well attended. We had some great discussion. Much of the discussion in the stock one kind of revolved around judges, getting judges, hiring judges, judges education. And then for confirmation, the altered program took up a significant chunk of conversation, and trying to strengthen our entries in confirmation as well. So that is about what I have for those.
Thanks, Tanya. Uh, does anybody have any questions? Anne, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, I'm pretty sure that they were recorded. I think I went to the agility one, and then I'm hosting the rally and obedience next week. Do we have, or are we going to have the recordings all in one place? I know those are kind of long, or a executive summary, so to speak, of each of the affiliate meetings, because I think those would be great to publish, and I'd like to read them all, hear them all, for the ones that I missed.
Calla,
Yes.
I think you're
Yes.
posting, right?
There is the ones for the agility meeting are already out. There's a meeting summary and the recording is on the YouTube channel. And then I basically plan to do the others this weekend.
You
Perfect.
said there was a meeting summary as well. Where is?
Yep. Well, I posted it to the member list. And there's a link on the Facebook page if we wanted to have like a page on the website or kind of a centralized place that we could put it. That's all I can think of.
Okay.
Otherwise, in the YouTube videos, I can link to it, like in the description.
That would be a
Cool.
good idea.
Yeah, perfect. That's great.
Okay, I can
Thanks.
do that.
And we might be able to find a place for it on the website as well. A question, I know we've got the obedience and rally coming up, and we've also got junior coming up, and I think that covers all of them for this time. Originally, we had talked about doing this on a quarterly basis. How does everybody feel about that? Or is this something we want to concentrate on more on a semi-annual basis? Does anybody have any thoughts?
I think quarterly is too much.
Okay.
I think twice a year would be good.
Okay. Anyone else? Thanks, Jill. I see that. Well, let's plan on bringing this up again once we're done with obedience and rally and juniors, just to double check, and then maybe we can get a more set schedule time of year to schedule these out for future. Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. I think they've been very well received. I've listened to many of them and good questions and really good discussion. So if you haven't been able to attend, please do so. It's interesting to see what our members have to say. Okay, next up on the agenda is the business office update. Diana.
Good evening, everyone. I talk kind of fast, so I'm going to make myself slow down for the members. But Jody and I visited the business office in Bryan, Texas last week. Chuck was scheduled to join us, but some family matters came up and he could not join us. So it was just Jody and I. During our recent visit to the business office, we witnessed firsthand the significant workload and stress the business office staff is experiencing while operating with 2 vacant positions. And this is at a time when the show year is concluding during finals, preparing for finals. To help alleviate the immediate backlog, I assisted with membership desk to check all the messages, bringing all the outstanding work in membership up to date. I also processed member payments that have been hanging out there and charges completed for several registrations. So the membership when I left was up to date. We spent time with registration to review the backlog and the issues that registration inherited after assuming the responsibility for that desk. Jennifer and Jody worked together privately to organize the outstanding items and establish a plan moving forward to resolve those items. As to an update for some of the issues in registration, the majority of the delays are the result of incomplete or incorrect information, missing signatures, DNA-related requirements, and outstanding follow-up items. To improve, so that's in registration, and there's a plan in process for that. So we should see that catching up rather quickly. And then generally in the office, to improve member service and response times, I know that's very important to the membership. We've incorporated new expectations have been implemented requiring that all phone calls and emails be returned within 24 hours. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be exact right away, but that's the goal within 24 hours. And I did speak with the office manager today, and she feels like all the different departments are holding true to that. once the backlog is all brought current within all the different programs, we will then consider a time specific for ASCA's entry of results to occur in a timely manner and in an attempt to not experience a severe backlog in the future. As to our staffing update, we're happy to report that Lacey in Stock Dog was out on maternity leave and she returned back this last Monday. So, and that's a positive development. However, the business office still remains short one full-time staff member. The applicant that the office manager had lined up for this position has not returned any calls. So she has 2 interviews scheduled tomorrow to continue to work at filling this vacancy. In the meantime, we've approved a temporary employee to provide coverage once Ava, our temporary girl now that's working, we're going to replace her through an agency versus the privately. So that will start probably next week sometime. When we do hire a front desk membership employee, they will be cross-trained along with registration and be registration's backup, as a lot of membership entails and involves registration-related responsibilities anyway. This cross-training should improve workflow efficiency and provide greater flexibility during the periods of high workload or staff absences. The office manager has implemented a Monday morning staff meeting every Monday to talk about goals of the week and any problems, any issues, any help needed. And the first one was this past Monday. She said it went very well. That's all on the update I have. And I'm hoping this will improve for the members. And of course, the members can always reach out to any of us if you have any questions or not getting the service that you think you should be getting. Any questions?
I'd like to add one thing to that, Diana.
Sure.
To clarify results for June, the office, due to a computer issue with the merit list for the previous year, are not allowed to enter any results for the month of June until starting July 1st, and more specifically after finals information goes out. So everything that came back in through June is now being addressed in results. So that's potentially why there are delays and that some members might be seeing.
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Need any clarification? Okay. On to the next one. Tanya, are you ready, or would you like us to skip and come back to you?
I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
So I am supposed to be presenting the emergency reduction of stock requirements. I can say that the committee is working on this. It is currently and should be in the voting phase. I sent to Cala the wording that they're proposing for now. Do I need to read that, or can we include that in the minutes? What would everybody like?
I'd like you to read it, please. It's not very long.
Okay. So it would be in addition to section 24.9.2 minimum stock requirements. A minimum of 5 head of sheep, cattle, or ducks shall be used. Sorry. A minimum of 5 head of cattle, sheep, or ducks per run shall be used if any circumstance, including but not limited to death, disease, loss, feed shortages, financial hardship, quarantine restrictions, transportation disruptions, or other unforeseen events arise. Sorry, I'm not the best out loud reader. Bear with me. Unforeseen events arise that affect the procurement of sufficient stock to meet the minimum requirements of 5 head per run. All reasonable options to maintain the 5 head minimum shall be explored before any reduction is considered. Upon identification of such an emergency meeting shall be called within 24 to 48 hours. The meeting shall include the Nationals and Final Stock Chair, National Specialty Chair, Stock Dog Committee Chair, and the Stock Dog Committee. Of those in the meeting, the attendees shall review all available options and develop a proposed resolution. Approval by a majority of those attending shall constitute adoption of a recommendation, which shall then be forwarded to the Board of Directors and the general membership. Any reduction in the minimum of stock requirements must be approved by a majority vote of the Board of Directors and the Nationals Finals course directors before implementation. Full disclosure of this process will be provided to the general members on the ASC members, and I think this should probably have list added to it. The provision shall be used only for unforeseen emergencies occurring after site selection and stock arrangements have been made, and shall not be used to circumvent the requirement to secure adequate stock when selecting a facility, negotiating contracts, or planning an event. A known or reasonably foreseeable shortage of stock shall not qualify as an emergency under this provision. Following resolution of the emergency, future finals shall return to the standard requirement of a minimum of 5 head of cattle, sheep, or ducks per run unless other qualifying emergencies arise. The intent of this provision is to provide relief only in the event of an unforeseen emergency and not to permit advanced planning for selection of contracting with facilities, vendors, or stock providers that cannot reasonably meet the minimum stock requirements established by these rules.
So does anybody have any questions or comments that we might be able to take back to the committee before they officially vote? Dan? You're on mute, Dan.
Thank you. I read through this earlier, and I've expressed this concern before, and I do not like the first sentence of the second paragraph of 2492 proposed that says financial hardship. I think that right there will create a very ambiguous situation where they could just say, hey, we can't afford it. It's too expensive to get stock at this particular area. You go on down and read the rest of it. It says that, your location cannot be a part of that, but I still think the financial hardship makes it, I don't like it. Everything else I'm okay with, but I don't like the financial hardship because it could easily be decided that they just can't afford it. And so they need to go to a smaller number, which has been a push for years.
Okay, thank you. Jill?
I echo Dan's sentiment. However, the reason I raised my hand was to thank the Stock Dog Committee for beginning this effort. And it probably, because we're in open session and open session is geared to the listening membership audience, I think we probably should have framed it before we talked about it. But currently, we are potentially experiencing an environment where the New World screwworm could, in fact, impact our event this year. It's likely not going to. However, ASCA needs to begin to address in a proactive manner how these things would be addressed in the event of an emergency. So for the listening audience, that is the intention of this motion. And I think the Stock Dog Committee is on the right track. I would like to thank them for their efforts. I do agree a little retooling might be needed, but again, I wanted to acknowledge everybody involved for getting this to us on time.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? I have a question about the 72 hours prior to the show. Would everybody be okay with that timing? So anything outside of that doesn't constitute an emergency? And is there enough time to make any decisions? Does anybody have any thoughts?
I think an emergency is just that. It's something that happens relatively quickly. So I think if we go beyond that time frame, then it wouldn't be considered an emergency.
This is Tanya. I tend to agree with. I mean, I think if something came up earlier than that, we could fix it as needed.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Jody, this is Jerry.
Oh, yeah.
72 hours is pretty standard in emergency operations to declare emergencies.
And that's fine. I just great. I wanted to ask the question. Okay. Tanya, thank them. We look forward to seeing the vote and having it come back to the board. Thank you. Okay, next up on the list is DNA requirements for frozen sperm from deceased sires. Jill.
All right, I get to do the frozen semen discussion. All right. Okay, so there's going to be two DNA related question or topics back to back. So the question at hand from a member is frozen semen on a sire that has been stored prior to ASCA's DNA requirements. She would like to be able to utilize that semen. However, the dog was not DNA tested because when it was alive, it wasn't a requirement. And although VGL does have a provision for testing frozen semen, this is some very old semen and it is not very voluminous, and she does not think that she would be able to get a breeding as well as have enough residual for the DNA testing. So I posed the question to Kala, and we decided, I don't know if Kala, if you're wanting to weigh in, please do so, because it'll be in everybody's best interest to hear your perspective as well. But I think she and I had differing opinions or viewpoints. So then we decided we should bring it to the board and see what the board has to say about this. Is this something that the board would entertain grandfathering dogs in? Obviously, they're no longer alive. All of them would be no longer alive, and a very limited amount of those dogs would have semen frozen and stored somewhere. Would the board consider a grandfather clause to allow that semen to be used for production of litters now without DNA testing? That is the question on the table. And before we go around, Kala, is there anything you would like to add?
Let's see. I'm just looking back at the email that I sent you when we talked about this. So I did have a couple of concerns just about, I understand completely where the person is coming from. This is valuable DNA, right? But other breeders have had to spend the money, track down samples, use stored semen to meet the DNA requirements. Some of those situations were really frustrating, but they still complied because they wanted to register their litters. The DNA requirement exists to verify the parentage of litters being registered today. So even though the dog did die before the DNA program was in place, the new litter would have to be subject to the current rules. And there's been a lot of people who haven't been able to register their litter because the sire died or for whatever reason. I understand that this dog lived and died before the requirement even existed. But still, I think that's why ultimately you wanted to bring it to the board, because it is kind of a tricky situation.
Yeah, but it's valid. it's valid for them to hear your insight and your input as well, because they're differing. And I'd like to hear, Jody, I can turn it over to you now. I'd like to hear from the board. If it's something that the board wishes to entertain, then you could give directive to Kala and I to move forward. If it's not something that you would like to entertain, then I would like Kala to be able to create a statement on behalf of the board so that we could respond then to that member.
Okay, let's go around and see how everybody feels. Whether we want to give it a little more study or if it's just something that we don't want to entertain right now. So, Chuck?
Yeah, I guess I have mixed emotions about this one. I do understand the um, the owner wanting to breed using that semen and not giving it up to do DNA testing. Um, so, and then on the other hand, we do have rules in place, and as Kala said, there's others that have been in these situations before. So, I guess I'm kind of leaning towards the the um, the point of view that she would have to use that DNA for testing, and if there's enough to breed a litter, then she could do that.
Thanks, Chuck. Anne?
Like Chuck, I'm torn. Um, I do think that there is a difference between dogs that were not DNA'd before ASCA's DNA program started and dogs that, like deceased dogs that were not DNA'd after ASCA's program started. But then one could think it's like, oh, well, what's the cutoff? It's like, did this dog die 3 months after we started and then we allow it or we don't? So however complicated this may seem, I tend to go with that if it is a deceased dog that was not DNA'd definitely before ASCA started the DNA program, that we should make a way for those litters to be registered. I don't know what sort of designation we would have. And yes, it is unfortunate for the other members who have had deceased dogs since we started the DNA program, but that was the program that we started and that was the rules that we enforced. So I think if there is a situation where it is before those rules, that we should allow it.
Thanks, Anne. Kala, do you have something to clarify?
Yeah, actually, Anne kind of hit on the point pretty well, but I did say, okay, we've had the situations, before where people have had to kind of meet the requirements and stuff, but realistically, I don't think we've ever had this situation before. I mean, think about how many litters and dogs this is actually going to affect. There are very few dogs who have frozen semen that, died before the DNA profiling requirements were needed that haven't been used at all in this time, right? Like if there was somebody who had semen on a dog that was, born and died before the DNA was required, they've probably had litters since then, and so they have been DNA tested. So it's super rare. This might be the only time we encounter something like this. So I don't know. Making an exception or having a clause like this might really only affect, what, five people, 5 dogs? So that's something to think about too.
Right. I mean, that's why I'm saying that I think if it's absolutely before the requirement, it's like this wasn't a requirement when this dog was alive. So we're not talking about, as Kella said, like a huge number of people or dogs.
Thanks, Anne. Diana?
Yeah, this is an anomaly, isn't it? I've listening to both sides and I've already changed my mind while listening. And you actually changed my mind because I was on the fence thinking we have the rules, we turn down other people, but then listening to this, and this dog did die before we enacted the DNA protocol. And like Calla said, this may only happen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times ever, if that many. So I'd be willing to listen to argument for allowing it, if that makes sense. This is my first night. I'm not privy of the DNA, what's going on with the DNA. So this is my first night hearing of this case. So I'd be willing to listen to it and think about it. I do see the owner's concern about not having enough willing to DNA, but then not having enough to do the breeding, may not have enough. So that is a concern for her. Yeah, I'd be willing to listen to it. So that's where I stand right now.
Thanks, Diana. Tanya?
I'm with Diana. I would say, my gut instinct is I would not want to, allow frozen without DNA. But as was mentioned, the opportunities for this are probably few and far between. So maybe, we do consider a special designation for this. I don't know. But like Diana, I would like to hear more about it to be able to kind of formulate a better decision.
Thanks, Tanya. Sue?
Yeah, I'm kind of riding the fence too, but if it was collected and the dog died before we had the rule for DNA, then I'm inclined to allow it to happen.
Okay, thank you. Jerry?
I see both sides of the situation. However, I think I would like to have the veterinarian tell us that there's not enough semen to do both the DNA and the breeding before I would say we didn't allow that we would give the waiver for the DNA before we just said no, instead of having the member say there was not enough semen to do both.
Thank you. Dan?
I'm a little on the fence with it as well, although I think Anne has a very good point. If DNA was not available to the dog at the time of its life, then it needs to be taken into consideration. If it did have the availability, then I would be opposed to it. So it's kind of comes down to when the dog lived and died versus the rules. And then, as was said earlier, the finding out what the quantity really is. Is there enough to do a test? How much they need to do a test? And would there still be a breeding? Those are all things I would want to take into consideration.
Thanks, Dan. Steve?
I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I'm not opposed necessarily to allowing this, but I think we should do something with our rule before we do it. I hate to not go by rules. If the rule's there, it's there for a reason. And we make one exception to a rule, then it kind of opens up some worms sometimes. I understand the dilemma, and I'm kind of on the fence on it because I'd like to have a little more information, and I also think that it wouldn't be bad to find out exactly how much she has. Does she have 6 straws? Does she have she had 2 straws? What she got? People can say something, and we need a little more facts to support that, I think, sometimes. But I would like to have a little more discussion before we do this.
Thanks, Steve. Tom?
I guess I have a few questions that would need to be answered before I could really make a justified decision. One would be, I assume that this dog has produced other litters. History, would be would be great to know. Also, pertaining to what Steve said as well, how much semen is actually there. If there's only enough for one breeding, can we pull enough semen? Once you thaw that semen, though,
Yep.
it's done. If you have only got one breeding,
Yeah.
and so the decision would have to be made for the breeder at that point in time. Prior to doing that, am I going to go ahead and utilize the semen, and whether it's not going to be allowed or not, and we may not have enough to DNA test it. I guess, the bottom line for me would be just a little more history, a little more information would be really helpful.
Thanks, Tom. I'm of the same opinion. I'd like a little more information, which means I'd like to pursue this a little bit more. So Jill, can we get some more information, look at the rules and come up with something to discuss in the future?
I will get back to the owner and tell them that the board is willing to entertain it with more information. And I can answer Tom's question in terms of the dog is a foundation dog that many people will recognize and was a contributor, a very great contributor to the read. So, but that should not lead I did not want that to lead our conversation. So I will get more information from the owner and I'll send it. Again, I'm not advocating one way or the other, but I do definitely understand where the person is coming from. And I appreciate you guys listening to the topic, and I'll circle back with more information.
Great. Thanks, Jill. Any other comments on that one? Okay.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
Steve. This is
Yeah.
Steve. I have a question. So this dog has been used in the past, then, right?
It's
He's
very
he's
old,
pro-
very old dog. Yes.
but he's produced litters since, I mean, in the
Not
past,
since.
right?
Oh
Are
yeah, a
any
long time
are
ago.
any
He's
are
long
any of
time.
have any of those litters been DNA'd in the program?
I would have to get that information. I can add that to my questions. The dog is very old, so I cannot tell you if any of the offspring are currently they're pretty old too. So I don't
Okay.
know the answer to that question.
Well, it'd be interesting to know where any of those had been DNA'd.
Right. I will tell you I did not delve into I did not dig deep because I did not want the member to get the wrong idea that it was a potential. I simply said it's against the rules right now. I'm happy to bring it to the board and see if there's any avenue, any path forward and report back. So I made no promises and
Okay,
did not ask a lot of questions.
all right. So I think if she can answer some of those questions and we discuss it a little further, it'd be better.
Sounds great. I will do it.
Thanks, Jill. And you are up on the next one with DNA resulting in a possible contingency plan for the national.
Okay, so if you guys haven't been following along, it's a very important time to start following along with the DNA program because kits have started going out to members the end of May, the beginning of June. About 60 kits were purchased in the first couple of weeks of June. Unfortunately, of the 60 that were purchased, very few samples were actually returned to get into the lab for testing. VGL tests in lots of 24. So the chip, just imagine the chip has 24 slots in it. And they grab the samples in lots of 24, they put them in the chip, and then they begin their testing. Because VGL is a nonprofit, they are a university, they do this. This is the way they do it in order for it to be the pricing to be effective for the consumer. So it took a while to get 24 samples returned. Those, the first set of samples are in the process of testing, and we should be getting results. The customers should be getting results any day now. The second set of samples, as of I don't even know what today is, Thursday. As of Tuesday, I believe, we were still deficient a handful, but they do forecast the second set getting into testing by next week. The results take roughly 2 weeks. The reason that I'm bringing this up is what we did not anticipate was people buying the kits but not returning them. That was not something that we foresaw. Also, there was a lot that came in of 5 that had black mold all over them. So those were deemed, deficient. The DNA is deficient then, and a new set of swabs was sent to the owner for resubmittal. Why is this important? Because the ASCA National is right around the corner. And while, yes, members may be waiting to the last minute to get their litters DNA'd, or the dams and the sires DNA'd so that they can register the litter, it still leaves us in a position where we need to consider a contingency plan for these individuals, because there are a handful of entries that are, I would say, roughly 20 entries are contingent upon our getting the DNA results so that the litter can be registered and then the individual registration can be issued. So I spoke to both Chuck, I spoke to Jerry, and then I spoke to our entry clerk. And we think we have a potential contingency plan. And I would like to, much like the last topic, I would like to float it by the board. And if we get a majority consent for us to move forward, then I will draft the contingency plan and send it to your review, and then you can vote on it. What the contingency plan would look like, we don't change anything that we are doing with the entry deadline. It's that when you order a kit from VGL, you are given a unique ID number. When you return that sample, the ID number then becomes a case number, which is a unique number. The contingency plan idea would be the dogs that are affected, that their registration is being hung up by these DNA results. They would then, as opposed to putting a registration number on their entry form, they would put either the ID number or the case number. And that is a number that the DNA committee can go into the ASCA MyVGL account, and we can confirm that in fact that is an accurate number and the person either did order their kit and or the sample has been returned and is in testing. And I promised the entry clerk that the DNA committee would assist her in circling back and providing we would create a list of the dogs in question. And as I mentioned, we're talking about roughly about 20 to 24 dogs. We would create an Excel spreadsheet with the case number or the ID number. And when we get the registration number, we would put it in the spreadsheet, and then at the end of that, I would send it to the entry clerk. The entry clerk is willing to grab the entry form and handwrite the registration number in there. The timing of the results would then, assuming that the person did return their sample, it will be tested before the national takes place. I know it sounds like a lot. I probably over explained it, but it's everything having to do with the DNA program and process is complicated and many steps. So let me know if this is something that you guys are willing to entertain. If so, the intention is to let this first set of tests, this first set of the 24 samples, we want to get those resulted first so that the DNA can get over to the business office and they can update those files. The intention is to complete that process first before we would announce a contingency plan. So the timing of that likely would be next week, probably in 1 week's time. So that then should reduce the amount of dogs that are affected because there should be some of the dogs in this first set that will be resolved by then. So any questions about what I just said? And then I like to hear if the board is inclined for us to move forward with drafting a contingency plan. So it's all yours now, Jody.
Okay, well, I'll answer yes first, but Chuck?
I'm a yes on that one because I think, due to the transition from Orvet to VGL, and we've had some hiccups, a few hiccups along the way, then I think we owe it to our membership that are really trying to get it done to be able to international.
Anne?
Yeah, I mean, this is a unique situation. Happy to help. I just hope that it doesn't drag on and it's an issue like when we're actually coming up to nationals, but hopefully it won't. And I just think we should try to help the most people as possible, but not what's the word I'm looking for? Not have it be so burdensome to the office. That I agree that if people are making concerted effort to get this done, great.
Thank you. Diana? Diana, you're muted.
I just talk away like I'm talking to the world and I'm muted. So I'm just going to sum it up and say, yes, I agree.
Thanks, Diana. Tanya?
Um, I need to think about this more. Sorry.
Do you want me to come back to you?
I need to listen to more discussion. I just don't have a strong. I need more
Okay.
time.
Let me come back
Thanks.
to you. Sue?
I'm okay with it.
Thank you. Jerry?
I'm a yes. We need to
Dan?
help our members through this process.
Yes, we do. Dan?
I think there definitely needs to be a contingency plan. Jillian and I spoke the other day, and my curiosity was then and is now, is it always going to be groups of 24, or can they do smaller panels, maybe for an additional fee as a rush, so that people don't have to wait so long. But yeah, there needs to be some kind of contingency in place.
Thank you. Steve? Steve, you're muted.
Okay. I agree that there should be a contingency plan. The question I have is this coming up just for, is it a national issue right now? It's really driving this?
Yes.
Okay. So we don't anticipate this being something that's, going forward to be a big mess, right?
This should be a one and done.
Okay, so I think I would be a yes with a contingency plan, and that's just based on my limited knowledge of what we're talking about here. So
Thanks, Steve. Tom?
I would agree. I would be concerned that it is an open-ended time frame. I think that there should be established a time that things need to be put into place submitted to VGL for the testing done, rather than leave it an open-ended deal where they can submit 2 weeks prior to nationals and we have to have a contingency plan for them. So with that, I would say yes, as long as we establish some sort of an expiration date per se.
Thanks, Tom. Tanya?
Yes, after hearing the further on questions, I would agree we need to do it with a good contingency plan.
Thank you. Diana?
Just as a follow-up real quick, and I'm sorry, my mind was somewhere else. But no, I do agree we need a contingency plan. I do also think, isn't it the opinion that this year in this particular instance, because of our move over to VGL, that this is not going to happen again? This is a once and done thing this year. That way, if we help the membership out, it will go a long way for us as well, and hopefully increase the entries into nationals. Nationals is our bread and butter, so it will increase the entries into nationals. And I don't think this is going to happen again after this year, but I'd like to hear everyone's opinion on that we're kind of one and done. We just need to get over the hurdle, is the way I'm understanding it.
Thanks, Diana. Tanya? Oh, okay.
Sorry, that was accidental.
Okay. Calla, I think that's what Jill is talking about, is that, entries would have to be in by the deadline, and then if they didn't have their results in by, I don't know how far before actual nationals, that they just wouldn't be able to enter. So I'm assuming, Jill, you'll come up with that kind of a plan?
Yes, I'll move forward with it, but I did want to address two questions. For anybody who didn't hear me before, this is not a rule book change. This is a contingency plan for this national only, because we are in the process of transitioning from Oravet to VGL, and the issue that is holding things up is they do not test one sample at a time. They test in lots of 24, which is what is causing the holdup. In answer to Dan's question, I'm sorry I didn't reference that earlier, Dan, but I did ask. There is the chip. I don't know the best way to try to explain it, but imagine the chip has 24 slots, and in each slot you put one of the samples that has come in. In order for them to be able to price it to us the way they priced it to us, it has to be a full chip. If it is less than a full chip, they still have to charge the same amount. So the pro rata share changes based on how many of the 24 slots are full or empty. And they are not interested in entertaining that at all. It could, if someone, let's hypothetically say each slot is, $10, that's $240. And we know they're $50 roughly right now, right? So I'm just using 10 because it's an easy way for people to follow along in math. So 24 times 10, that's $240. If there's one sample in there, it's still $240. So the lab is saying we charge the cut, we don't know how many samples we're going to get, so we have no way of being able to prorate for a chip that is not completely full. So the answer to the question is no, there is not a way to expedite testing. It is not available at all in their lab. So I know this is all new and foreign to us, and I'm learning as people are asking questions. But at present, if we had a workaround, I wouldn't have even come to the board. I would have said, I need some money to pay for these samples to get through. But VGL does not do that. So at present, I have no other solution than to create a contingency plan, which will at least, as opposed to there was a sentiment, oh, just put the word pending on your entry form, but that's very open-ended. At least with the case number, I can verify that the sample was in fact ordered and received, and it's in the queue for either testing or it's in testing. So as far as a deadline to it, the entry deadline does not change. The whole sentiment is if your dog is still pending a registration number because your DNA sample is with VGL and you don't have the results to get the litter registered, then this is a patch to get you through from point A to B. But you have to have ordered the sample and returned the sample and have a unique case number. I see Dan's hand. I can call on you since Jody's muted. I think that's okay.
Dan, you're muted.
Damn it, thank you. So I have a question with the contingency. I'm not opposed to it, but so this person goes ahead and does everything, then they get the case number, they run their dog, it's probably a puppy or whatever it's going to be. They go best in show and then they're rejected by the DNA. Do we have anything in place if it doesn't pass down the road? What do we do? How do you fix that?
That would have to be part of the contingency plan. I think I have a lot of good questions and feedback from you guys. And I think really my first question was, and it sounds like everybody is in agreement that we'll draft something. I say we because I'm not going to do it alone. I'll have Chuck and Ann participate in that. And then, of course, Jerry will weigh in. And then we'll present it to the board for review. The issue that I have right now is this is a timely matter. So we need to get working on something, a draft to give to you guys so that you can kind of regurgitate it back to us and we can tweak it. But it needs to be ready to send out to the membership in about a week's time.
Anybody have any other questions or comments? Okay. Thanks, Jill. We'll wait to see what's coming across on that. Okay, next up on the agenda is the New World Screw Worm EOP plan and response plan. Jerry.
Okay, so last month we discussed the emergency operations plan and the emergency response plan in regards to the New World Screwworm and the Colorado Department of Ag rolling out their plan in response to the outbreak. So we reviewed the plan that I drafted. We were in agreement, and then I had sent it to the Colorado State Veterinarian's Office for review to see for their comments and edits if they had any. Dr. Bortz came back. She had a few edits. I sent those out to the board. They were minor edits that she had. And she did apologize for the lateness in sending that back, but they've been a little inundated with all the fires here in Colorado. and evacuations. So we did get that. And I did just draft, and my apologies for the tardiness in the event removal policy notice that would go along with that. But before we get to that, did any of you have any questions on the state veterinarian's additions to the emergency operations plan that I sent? So if you didn't have,
Steve has a question. Oh, no, Steve just said, okay. Sorry, Steve.
No, I had a question.
Oh, you had a question. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, so as I understand it, whoever's coming from an affected area, they need a veterinarian certificate that says their dog is clear at the point of that certificate, right?
yes,
And then do they send that
within 5 days.
within 5 days of going to the event?
Yes, within 5 days of coming to the event.
And then they've got to have something from the from Colorado, some type of a card or something, right?
They have to have the CVI form from their licensed veterinarian.
Okay, so they take that form to their licensed veterinarian, and he fills it out, and that's all they're going to need.
They don't have to have the Colorado form, Steve. I clarified that. That was a question that Ann had. And Dr. Wartz informed me that Colorado cannot force their form onto another state's veterinarian. So the form that, say, in your state, in New Mexico, we have to accept the form that your veterinarian would give you. We have to accept that here in Colorado.
So that whatever form that veterinarian has is what they need then. They don't have
That
to have
is
anything.
correct.
They don't have to have a form from Colorado or anything like that.
No, it is the form that the veterinarian uses in New Mexico or California or Arizona, wherever our exhibitors come from, whatever form their veterinarian issues them, that is the form we have to accept from a licensed veterinarian.
Within 5 days of the event.
Within 5 days of the event.
And right now, is it my understanding that only Texas and New Mexico are affected? Or is that everybody that's coming?
Everybody, well, I will tell you that I can tell you that people that are traveling from, whether you are in an affected state or not, it's my understanding from Dr. Wartz that they've got checkpoints in affected states. So even if you're traveling from a state that's not affected, people are being stopped and they're being asked if you've got a health certificate on your animals. So it's because anybody can tell you anything. So it's probably just a good form of practice that you might want to have a health certificate on your dog when you're traveling.
Well, I would say we should do everything we can to get that information out. And make sure everybody understands that, because I've had several people ask me, and I said, "Well, I'm not sure. I think you got to have something from Colorado too." So there's
no, it's not on the Colorado. It doesn't have to be on the Colorado form, but coming in, and so we'll have a checkpoint. That's the plan. That's the emergency operations plan, emergency response plan. We'll have somebody checking as you check in, come into the site. And Island Grove Park has also itself has issued out that they've been contacted by the state veterinarian's office that they have implemented their plan. So they've notified us because they don't want an infestation on the grounds, because that will quarantine their facility, which means we won't be there or any future event.
So my other question is, how are we going to go now that we've got all this information that's up to date to inform the membership? What's our plan?
That is the event notice that I drafted. I just finished that. And like I said, my apologies. I just finished that event removal policy notice today. And so what that says is that in cooperation with all of that, that here's the ground, it's got mandatory grounds entry requirements, proof of inspection, it goes into preventive treatment, and then our grounds removal criteria, how all of that would happen, procedure following the removal order. Also, it explained, I just added some exhibitor vigilance in handling all of that, of what to inspect on your dog for daily and all of those types of things to add to that we would put out on the Nationals Facebook page, send to our entry clerk, and also to have her add to and then get it emailed out to all of the exhibitors that have already entered.
Okay. So yeah, the wider, getting that out to the widest, audiences should be our goal.
Yes.
So.
And that would be like the Facebook page, and then send that out once I've just got a few tweaks on it again, and get it out to the people who have already entered. And that can be through our Nationals entry clerk.
So maybe this is a redundant question. Is there any way we could send a notice to the affiliate clubs so that they could make sure that their membership was, not everybody gets on Facebook every day and looks at that stuff.
Steve, sorry, once Jerry gets the final documents, Catla can post it and email it out on Constant Contact, and also put it on Facebook, Nationals, and the list.
All right.
So
perfect.
we can use all of our forms of communication.
That's perfect. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Sure. Ian?
Yeah, I think the best means of communication would be through the entry clerk.
Yes.
And yes, this is so she has all the emails, everyone was entered, she sent out confirmations, but I think that her sending that out as a quote unquote final or special notice would be the best way, because everyone looks for those from the entry clerk. So that's number one. Number two, yeah, it's called a CVI. It's a Certificate of Veterinary Inspection. And as I clarified with Jerry, it is whatever your veterinarian provides you. It's not a form you can get. Your veterinarian has to have it. So whatever state you're in, your veterinarian has it. And according to the Colorado rules and what is in our statement, that if you are from an infected area, which so far I think is just New Mexico and Texas, it's within 5 days of coming. But if you're in an uninfected area, it is within 30 days of coming. So for example, I'm coming from California. I'm driving through Utah, Wyoming, and then into Colorado. So I'm not going anywhere near the affected area. And I already have plans in place to get the certificate filled out for both my dogs within 30 days of when I leave for Nationals or when Nationals starts. So I want to thank Jerry for working on this and answering my questions and clarifying things. And so I think I've looked at a bunch of stuff. So I think this will work. Thanks a lot.
And great idea about the entry clerk. That I'm sure there's a way they can do that. So thank you. Jill.
I wasn't on mute, and I was agreeing with Anne when she was talking, and then I muted myself. I understand the concern about getting this out to the masses, but the masses are not all entered at the national. The people that need to know about this are the people who are entering the national. Yes, we can scream loud from the mountaintops, but really the people who are affected are those who are entering. I want to say that because I work at AKC shows, this is that come very aware of. And I would suggest that we consider putting a statement on the website. I know Onofrio, which is a superintendent, I know Onofrio has a statement. We might want to consider putting a blanket statement on our website. And the reason being is because while Colorado and this particular facility, we want to cater to the needs of both of them. Each state has a different set of requirements for re-entry. So right now we're talking about getting to the national, but it's important that we also acknowledge people getting home. So when you read the requirements for reentry for California, they reference an affected state. If you were in an affected state, the majority of states reference an affected zone. There's a difference between a zone and a state. So the reason I'm recommending that we put some sort of disclaimer on the website is we cannot possibly be responsible for each person who is entered for their reentry home back to their home state and or the states in which they are traversing it during their travel. So we should include some kind of blanket disclaimer that says at the end of everything that we are asking and suggesting that we say, but educate yourself, learn, like I can give you guys all the reentry information. The requirements for California are the most strict as at present. In addition to so I was just in New Mexico, and what California requires is a CVI from a veterinarian in the affected state, which was New Mexico. In addition, they require a movement permit 48 hours in advance. Now, I'm telling you all of this because that's what the requirements are. I elected not to do it, and I got home with zero problem. I had no issues at all. They didn't ask me anything other than what was in my trailer. But that was my choice as the pet owner. And so we just want to make sure that the exhibitors are aware of what our requirements are and what our plan is, but we should reference for them to make sure that they become familiar with their state's rules and regulations for reentry. And I think that that is a wise thing to do to protect ASCA as an organization.
Agreed, Jill, because right now, state of Texas is training people, additional people for checkpoints, to re-enter, to enter their state.
And this is a very fluid situation.
It is.
So as cases become aware, and there will be cases that are resolved between now and the national.
Yeah.
And so people just need to be aware that that educate yourself and make your own decision. We're not criminals, and these aren't your average, pet dogs that they're not likely to be affected, but we have to protect the national, we have to protect the venue, we have to protect the organization, and we have to advise the members to do a little research. But I want to also say at the same time, blowing this up, on all channels may not be advantageous. And just I said it, and you can do with it what you want.
It's information that needs to be shared. Members need to educate themselves, and like any travel plans, it's preparedness. The exhibitors need to be prepared for anything. And we give them the information to do and they have to make their own decisions. But yes, we do need to protect ourselves. Right now, Colorado is not an affected state. That doesn't mean by the time nationals gets here in September that it won't be, or any other state for that matter. So I can take out the highlighted sections that Dr. Gwartz added onto the EOP plan if you would like, and clean that up. And then I will clean up and add a disclaimer onto the event notice. It's really a health and safety notice. And we get that put out there.
Jerry, let's we can talk tomorrow. I just want to verify and then we can figure out how to get and what you want to get out and where.
Okay. Are you available later in the afternoon?
Tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, Friday. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Because we passed a motion for this before, I don't think we need to do anything else unless you wanted to update something.
No.
But I think we're good.
Okay. I think Steve had something else, Jody.
I think so too. Steve, did you have a question?
I do. So say somebody shows up and they've got through all the states and they've got to the gate. I think your contingency plan should spell out that they're not going to be allowed. I mean, how are you going to handle those situations if they arise? It's not going to be, I mean, I just think that you need to talk about it at least. Does that make sense? Or
Jerry, if somebody shows up, it's outlined in the rule what's going to happen, correct?
When they come in, they're going to come in through the main gate. They have to check in and they're going to have to show their CVI. We'll issue them like an armband to show that they've been checked. So that allows them to come and go as everybody comes and goes, like they go shopping or go out for dinner, etc. And then they can pass through, if you will, it's like a permit thing that they've been checked so they can come and go and they don't have to produce those papers every time. That armband will show that they've already been checked. If I understood your question correctly, Steve.
yeah, that was kind of what I was saying. I mean, and say somebody shows up and now they're really pissed because they didn't follow all the rules. Who's going to be up there to handle that kind of situation?
We will have the EOP and the emergency response plan is we will have people designated to be at the checkpoint to check them in.
Okay.
That. And again, if they don't have the proper papers, Steve, they will have to go see a veterinarian. They won't be allowed in the grounds. They won't be allowed in. They will have to go see a veterinarian in Colorado to get those papers.
Okay. All right. So that makes some sense. Maybe up front we could provide them a list. There could be do we want to go that far to give them a couple of places where they could go or not? Hopefully it doesn't happen.
We can, and we also plan on also that we would have a veterinarian on site to be able to handle that inspection for them on site.
Okay. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen, but I'm just thinking that, worst case scenario.
Right. No, we will have the plan is to have a veterinarian on site, even for the case of somebody is not aware that, that they have that situation or it comes up, that we have somebody on site to assist because they won't be allowed in the grounds. Okay. And then we have a whole isolation area, if you will, of where they will go to, not only with that dog, but with the other dogs that they are traveling with to isolate them from everybody else.
Perfect.
Gary, would the veterinarian on site be willing to do a CVI for the return trip if required? And are they, would they be, it has to be an authorized.
It has to be a licensed and accredited veterinarian to do that.
Right. Would that same person be willing? Let's hypothetically say, my state requires something within 5 days, right? And I've already been on the road for 10 days, so the one I brought from California isn't good anymore. Would that person be willing to do a CVI for the states that require that for a reentry?
And that is what I'm trying to work out with Dr. Gwartz right now. Dr. Gwartz herself, she shows dogs herself, so she understands what we are up against, and they have on-call veterinarians. So I'm trying to see if we can have them be the people to be on site at Island Grove for us.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I think that would be helpful. One other thing that, as everyone is talking, I'm wondering if we don't need to get this, statement and these processes or policies out to the exhibitors before the close of entry in the event they would like to cancel their entry.
So, yeah.
I think it's only fair that if, someone doesn't, they may not want to jump through the hoops, and I think they should be able to rescind their entry if they want. It's a sad notion, but something to consider anyway.
What are the board's thoughts on that?
I'm not positive, but I think the entry clerk has the ability to do a mass email. So it's something that we would have to verify with her, but I think it can be done so that it wouldn't be necessarily time consuming for her. She could just attach the document to an email. So I think that is possible. If timing wise, Jerry, if you think we can have all the information gathered by then.
Okay. So let's work on that, finalizing that statement tomorrow, Jody, and
Okay.
then we can work with Terry on that.
That sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, any other questions or comments?
The only other question I had is I heard from Chuck and I heard from Jill was on the refund policy.
Oh.
After entries close. Was everybody in agreement with staying with no refunds per the refund policy that's in the Nationals premium?
I think so. To clarify for everybody, you're saying if they show up.
The Nationals premium says entry fees are non-refundable in cases of dog absence, disqualification, veterinarian/judge excusal, rule violation, riots, civil disturbances, or other uncontrollable circumstances preventing the show. Based on that, there would be no refund based on veterinary excusal.
So I would agree with that. Does anybody have? So if for some reason they showed up and they couldn't be admitted, they would not get their entries back. Does anybody have a problem with that or a comment?
And or if their dog was found affected.
Right. Yes. Okay. I think we're good, Jerry.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Next on the list is Tanya, operational audit.
Hello again, everybody. Nothing exciting to report, other than two things I would like to note that we added, that we've improved on. We have established mentors for everybody, for the incoming directors. So each director, as they come in, has a mentor that they can work with as an existing board member. And then also we have brought forward a leadership development activity that we are scheduled to review in August and decide if it's something we would like to continue or not. Anybody have anything to add to that or questions?
I don't.
I think it's good.
Okay. Okay. I think we're good. Thank you, Tanya. And next up on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Diana?
I unmuted myself. Thank you. Okay, good evening again, everyone, and to the membership. So we'll go over the P&L first. Our income was down June from May about $7,000, mostly from Aussie Time subscriptions. Little bit of member services were down, but it wasn't horribly down, just down a little bit than it was from from May. And then on our expenses, we did have quite a bit of insurance renewing the month of June. I had advised you all of that. So we had $6,000 worth of renewal expenses on our policies, which brought our expenses up a little bit. So our overall net was a little bit more than last month actually, but it was 11,488.48 was our net income for the month of June. And then let me switch over real quick. I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at the working budget that we fill out that's on an Excel sheet. But for the new members coming in, the new directors coming in, if you look to the right, we have it worked out so that you can see the accumulated income for the year and how the percentage wise is going, whether it's below, above, or on point for the budget for the year. So if you ever have any questions about anything, just let me know and I'll look it up in QuickBooks. Everything is now kept in QuickBooks for the incoming directors, so it's pretty easy to look up and to track an expense and see where it's coming from, where it's going, or what it was for. And that's pretty easy. But the office expenses were about the same. The only thing that was a little high was our insurance. The month of July, forecasting forward, we're going to have some pretty hefty bills in July. We're going to have the Aussie Times publishing invoice in the month of July, as well as the editor in the month of July. And those are the two large expenses. We do have to add back $5,000 to our attorney's retainer fund. We had used up his retainer fund. So we need to add another $5,000 to that. So July is going to be a little bit costly for us, but it usually is. So that's nothing that's not really changed. In the way of cash on hand in our Chase accounts, our regular operating account is $6,300. I'm sorry. I did transfer over money into savings, and we'll talk about that a little bit later because that started out at around 171. In our wire account, we have $100. In our savings account, we have 29,196.41. Our AEMD account, we have $53,760. In our foundation account, we have $5,760. That's a total in the Chase accounts, not including the Nationals accounts, of $221,680.29. What changed was our Vanguard, our investment accounts. And for the new directors coming in, we started the Vanguard accounts about 1.5 to 2 years ago, so that we could be having a little bit more rate of return versus just in the bank savings accounts, which give you half a percent. They give you nothing. So right now our Vanguard accounts are averaging between 3.8% and 4% a month. So we added to the savings account this month So we now have 332,181.38 in the savings account at Vanguard. In the AEMD account, that remains almost the same except for interest earned. So it's at $30,432.13. And then our foundation account, we also moved over foundation money into that account. So we have $82,586.90 for a total in Vanguard of $448,200.41, which gives our total operating funds for ASCA at $666,880.70. Our odd number nationals account has the $2,966 in it. And then the even nationals account, which we're using this year, presently has $189,012.84. Anyone have any questions on our funds? Okay, I also sent out that I'm switching my screen real quick and opening it up. I also sent out the mandatory finals fees worksheet, which I'm opening it up real quick. Doesn't want to open. There it is. So the new office manager worked on it this month by herself without my assistance. So I have not checked these numbers. I will audit these numbers just to make sure the month of May is correct, because they were putting in some of the entries a little late. So I will go back and check these numbers. But right now, the AEMD spreadsheet I sent everyone is complete through May 31st. I will check it. I will advise you if there's any changes. And if there are, I will send those to you. Also sent to you, let me go back to my folder. I believe I sent you the foundation P&L. Yep, here it is. So some good news on the foundation account. Come on, open up. We had a very sizable donation that we almost lost, but we were fortunate enough to resurrect it. There was someone that made a donation, and I'm not sure if it was anonymous or not, Jody. So I'm a little bit hesitant on saying who made the donation at this time, but we did receive a donation of $12,500, which was sent in check form about 60 days ago. And Jody was contacted because the checks were not cashed. And the company that sent the donation was going to withdraw the funds and not reissue them. So I went on to the fund. I guess it's a specific fund service that gives donations to people. You open up an account and they give the donation to however they direct the donation to go. So that's where our donation came from. So there was a format for me to create an account, prove who the business was, prove our EIN number, and then we are allowed to receive donations through this service by way of ACH. So they reissued those funds. So we were very fortunate in being able to get these funds donated to us. So that was a nice contribution for this month of June of that contribution. We also received an annual contribution. I didn't trace this back, how long it's been going on, but it's Purina Farms. Not Purina Farms, Purina Dog Food sends us, and I want to say it was $809. So we also received that donation. But the profit and loss, I was playing around with it this week, and this is an all-time profit and loss statement. It's from since we've been tracking it through QuickBooks. So this profit and loss gives you everything. I did correct for the board members that remembers the last time I presented this P&L. There was a section called Other Expenses. And I actually went in and corrected most of that and divided that up between legal and CPA fees, because there's no reason to call them other expenses. Let's call them what they are. So I corrected that in QuickBooks, and now those are accounted for. So at least we can see what that is for. But this P&L is pretty correct. It's a little bit different than the spreadsheet that's in the drive. I will, when I have some time, try to audit that. It's not much difference. It's just a few $100s difference, but they should match up. Don't know if we'll ever be able to find it. It could have been something from 10 years ago. We just don't know. But I am going to go back and start the process of auditing it and see if I can find out where that difference is. But it's a pretty nice P&L that we have on the foundation account. And this shows you the different throughout the years where we have put our donations and where we have put the money. Any questions on the foundation account? Any questions on the P&L or the cash for the operating accounts? All right, if I have no questions, I'll make a motion that we accept the June financials as stated.
This is Chuck. I'll second it.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay, motion on the table to approve June treasurer's report. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thanks, Diana. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The last thing on our agenda tonight is the systems liaison report. Sue.
Yes. Good evening. Everything is going, and one of the new titles that was voted in is now in testing, the Grand Champion Stock Dog. So pretty excited about that. There's been more collaboration between the office and the programmers now that we're getting spots filled. So that's very encouraging and says a lot for us moving forward. As always, dock jumping was a big project. And it is moving forward, and I've been told that it should go out into testing in like 4 work days. So remember that they're part-time employees, and it's not 4 days, it's 4 work days. So I'm really looking forward to the things that are going to happen in the future.
Thanks, Sue. That will do it for us for this evening. If anybody has any comments or questions before we get off. Okay, thank you for your time. We appreciate it, and we hope everybody has a good evening. Until next month. Good night.
Right.
Night.
Thank you, everyone.
Night.